Welcome back, friends. We're calling this session to order. We are headed into something exciting with this session, and that is, what is our platform?
Yeah, we've been talking a little bit about this platform, and you should have seen lots and lots of messages in the Hoover app, and you might have seen lots of chatter about this even before we got to Gettysburg. So certainly something that's been top of mind for a lot of you. We're going to talk about it today. We're going to spend some time going through a process, a Braver Angels process of discussing it. But before we do that, because this is a slightly different day than we've had before, and let me just say, it's been a busy day. You guys have made it all the way to this session. You might be a little bit tired. Thank you for powering through. We have three plenaries today, and not just two. So this is the second of three. So you will be back in here again, but there's some additional things that'll take place, and we want you to know about those. So a couple misconceptions, including what happens in the third and last plenary. There is an amazing musical spirit and artistic spirit with Braver Angels, and that is going to continue tonight with a closing concert that includes, of course, the artists of residence, who are amazing, but it also includes a number of the singer-songwriters and the musical team and others that have been working on songs and that have been ready to perform for you. So that concert is actually all-inclusive. And then I found out something literally 20 minutes ago that I didn't even know, that over the course of the last 3 days, people have been getting together and writing songs, original songs that they are going to perform. So it's a special, special concert. Very excited to see that tonight. If you have the choice to see it, do not miss it. We hope that you do. We also see that a lot of you are starting to travel out, and if you have questions about that, feel free to get the details from the info desk. But thank you for being here if you do have to leave early, but if you can stay, it's gonna be a great, great party. Couple other things. This is a process tied to inclusion and content and making sure people feel heard. And so, as you know, we've been really flexible. We're starting a little later, making sure everybody gets time to go from place to place and also time to share their thoughts. So if we happen to run long in any of our sessions, what we'll do is refine, as you hear at the end of our session, what the new timelines are. So if we end a little bit late today, you'll hear about what the timing is and the start times are for the next kind of activity after this. So do take a look at that and make sure you pay close attention. I don't think there's any other notes except to say that people have asked us, Wilk and I, if we're still getting along or if we need to be separated. And let me tell you, the jury is still out, but right now, we're still getting along. No, you know what's funny is I have my cowboy boots and I'm going to wear them for Wilk. I told him I would bring them. And so at some point, maybe it's the concert, maybe it's before, I will be wearing boots. He may not be. He'll be wearing boots too. So
I started in boots.
He did start in boots. He has never transitioned into heels, but he has started in boots. I'll trade you shoes. How about that, Wilk? You'll see. We'll just have to see. But yes, we're still good friends, maybe better friends even. We'll see. And that's what Braver Angels does. So with that, I will turn it back over to my illustrious co-chair.
Yeah, so first what we'd like to do for this, as we debate what is our platform, first we'd like to take David Blankenhorn, invite David Blankenhorn, the president of Braver Angels, back to the stage to talk about why we debate our platform.
Thank you so much. When a few of us started Braver Angels, a few of us in this room started Braver Angels 6 years ago, there were two fundamental questions we had to ask ourselves about what kind of organization we wanted to be. One question was, who does the work? Another question is, who sets the direction? Under the question of who does the work, the two basic categories you could choose from would be paid professionals, citizen volunteers. Who's going to do the work? From the beginning, we have made a choice, and we've stuck with it, that we want the overwhelming amount of doing the work to be done by not paid professionals, but citizen volunteers. And that's been it from the beginning. And there's a very strong commitment to this. And that's why at the when you saw Barbara and Steve talk about our wonderful program of field work, I don't think they told you, but they're volunteers. And everybody on the stage that came up and said anything and did anything, and pictures you saw, they're all volunteers. Every one of them. I don't think there's a single exception. So we are an organization where the work is done by volunteers. Those volunteers are assisted by a small group of professional paid people. The second question is, who sets the direction? Who says, what are our core principles? What's our North Star? Where is Zion for us? Two possibilities again: board of directors, grassroots people, and a democratic process. Those are the two main choices. From the beginning, we have wanted to be the kind of activity that takes steady steps toward grassroots people in a democratic process. It's a little complicated because we still are an organization. We have a board of directors. They are the legally responsible for the organization. They could look at this platform and say, let's tear it up. We don't want to even look at it. They could say, we don't want to have a convention next year. They could look at me and say, you're fired. They could do all those things. But with the possible exception of the third thing, I think if you ask, where's Hunter? Hunter Baker is the chairman of our board. Most of you have met him by now. I'd be pretty surprised if they say, we don't care what the platform says, we're in charge, you people can go take a hike. Because there's been a strong desire from the board to everybody to go in the direction of, we want to be under the umbrella of a vision, a statement of principles that comes from our grassroots people that are actually doing the work of the organization. Why are we doing it this way? There are certain philosophical principles at stake that lead us in this direction, but if you want to be very practical about things, it's because we want to succeed. It's because we want to achieve our goal. It's because we want to change our country. And here in America, this is how we do it. We do not get real change in America from we the professionals, we the experts. We get it from we the people, because that's the only way that it's really going to happen. So we can have, the experts and the paid people are on tap, but they're not on top. On top has to be we the people if we want to have real impact. It's a practical thing. So why do we have a platform that states our principles, what we see as our, what we feel today? We might, in future conventions, we might change this. What we feel today are our basic ideas and ideals that guide our work. Why do we do that? Why did you have a chance to comment before the convention? Why are you called delegates, not ticket holders? Why is this called a convention, not a conference? It's all because we want to live out the ideal as best we can, making mistakes along the way. The work is done by citizen volunteers. The direction is set by we the people in a democratic process. So I said, I know I have to stop. I said the first night, a long time ago, that this is sacred ground here in Gettysburg. I believe that this process, as imperfectly executed as it's going to be, I believe that this process of refining and discussing and debating and adopting a platform, in civic terms, I believe it's a sacred thing. And so I am proud for the next several hours to be a part of that with you. So.
Thank you, David. And with that, we'll bring back the parliamentarian of our group, April Lawson.
Hello. Yes. Thank you. All right. So this might be my favorite part of every convention. It's we're going to debate our platform. And so my first job here is just to tell you a little bit about how that's going to go. Then we will read the platform and get into it. So the way that this will go, you just heard why we do this. And the way that this will go is we will first have the platform read by the chair of the platform committee. Someone from the platform committee will explain the input thus far and the changes that have been made in reaction, because this is a very fast iterative process. And then we will do questions of clarification and then have speeches. And so this body follows the same rules as Braver Angels debates, in that anyone in the room is allowed to speak. The spirit is of a collective search for truth, which means that we trust that everybody here is showing up in a spirit of goodwill, no matter how strongly we might disagree with them. And that we're going to be respectful of the process and what's happening here. And so there will be 3-minute speeches. Anyone in the room can raise your hand to speak. They're not going to be like for and against the way that we would in a typical Braver Angels debate. They're just going to be commentary on the platform and concerns, why you love it, why you hate it, all that stuff. And then we'll have a recess and we'll go to breakouts. And then during that time, the platform committee, all of whom are in here, are going to take the feedback that has come up in this session and try to integrate it into the platform. And then at our closing plenary, which will start around 4:15, we will do a vote on the platform and see if we want to embrace it going forward. So just a couple of little rules. When you speak, if you decide to give a speech, you raise your hand, wait for me to call on you, and then someone will bring you a mic and you stand at your seat and speak. I will time you. I will tap my gavel once when you have 30 seconds left and twice when you're out of time. Eventually, I will interrupt you. We know how this works, right? So, and then the other thing that I want to introduce is the concept of a friendly amendment. And so what that is if you hear a concern being raised that it seems like if we just change the words in this way or that way, we could just take care of it, you have the power to do something called raising a friendly amendment. So what that looks like is you would raise your hand and say, for an amendment, with your hand still raised. You would then wait for me to call on you. You would stand and you would say, I propose, or I move that we change X to Y. So I move that we change apples to oranges. I move that this sentence, which currently reads like this, instead read like that. V, our secretary, is recording each of these amendments word for word, and we'll take them back to the platform committee as suggested input so we're not going to vote on them here, but the platform committee will take them into consideration as they craft the final version. So, one more thing. Any of you who have seen a Braver Angels debate know that we have one sort of the part of parliamentary procedure that we hold on to real tight is called addressing the chair. And so my name is Madam Chair for the rest of this session. And whenever you're speaking, you're going to talk as though you're talking to me. I think that should make a lot of sense in this room, and we won't be doing questions, so that'll be okay. But just know that you will not be saying, you said this. I think you're wrong about this. You'll be, if you do, you can think I'm wrong about things, that's fine. But you'll be talking to me. So I'm Madam Chair, and that's how we'll run this. So to move right along, I'd like to call Elizabeth Dahl up to the stage. In fact, why don't we have the whole platform committee come on up? Because they're going to answer your questions in a second. So yeah, let's give them, they've been working really hard, guys. And we can have the current platform come up on the screen. And Elizabeth.
Hi, I am Elizabeth Dahl. I am from Washington State. I'm the director of Braver Politics at Braver Angels, and I was the Red co-chair of the platform committee.
I'm Mark Beckwith from Jaffrey, New Hampshire, and I'm the Blue co-chair of the platform committee. But our fearless leader has been Elizabeth throughout this whole process.
David Lapp and Eileen Red.
Manu Meal, grateful to be here.
Jerry Silverman, I've got a yellow band on. I'm a union organizer.
Luke Nathan Phillips, aka DJ Lukewarm, and I'm Red, and I've been honored to be on this committee.
V. Canciano from Hamden, Connecticut, and Eileen Blue.
Yeah, Erica Manuel, ex officio member of the platform committee.
And we also have two members that could not make it to the convention. Franklin Ruff from Kansas, who's a Red, and sorry, my brain is way overloaded today. Don't mind me.
All right, go ahead. A reading of the platform.
Yes, hang on. I'm trying to remember the other person that I'm already forgetting. Yes.
Mike Morrill. Well, we can get back to you on that. Let's go ahead and read the platform.
Okay, I am forgetting one person, and I'm very sorry, and I will apologize to them later. My brain is overtaxed at the moment because we just did a lot of work in a very short amount of time. And I will read the platform as we tweaked it in the last hour. Seeing the United States torn apart by civic rancor, today we come together to call for and lead a movement of civic renewal. Civic renewal requires that all speakers and voices be treated with dignity and none be silenced. Civic renewal leads to healthy conflict, an accurate understanding of differences, and an interest in finding common ground. Civic renewal builds community and institutional trust, strengthening bonds and inspiring action among Americans. Our movement was born in response to the crisis of polarization, a growing crisis that destroys trust, degrades public discussion, fosters isolation, and harms personal relationships. Polarization tears at our social fabric as trust in our institutions reach historic lows, distrust of one another on the basis of politics reaches all-time highs, and disturbing trends in race, social, and class relations point to increasing conflict. From the inception of the movement, we have brought people together to improve our understanding of each other and practice healthy conflict where we disagree. We have stood for the importance of working together despite our differences in order to find common ground and for a love of country that demonstrates itself in the respect and concern we bear for our fellow Americans. This is the patriotic empathy that will break the grip of divisiveness and strengthen our common bonds. Today, we dedicate ourselves to the great task before us, to safeguard the spirit of our republic and to preserve its deepest unity. In our politics, let us work together when we agree, and when we do not agree, let us oppose one another in civility and good faith. In the work of civic renewal, let us build trust among individuals and build institutions worthy of our trust. Let us labor together to discover and cherish our common heritage and identify as Americans. Let us strive as one toward the beloved community of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s vision and the more perfect union of the founders summoning, believing that America can live up to its best ideals. We believe that to change America, we must reflect its people. Thus, the rule of red-blue balance is foundational for all that we do. We gather as delegates from across America, equal numbers of Reds and Blues and many independents, including a politically balanced network of more than 200 organizations. We come from and reflect the breadth of America. We affirm as foundational for our emerging movement the principle of political balance, in which red and blue leaders of our movement come together equally represented and on equal terms. Beyond reflecting the spectrum of political opinion, our movement must also strive to be inclusive in our membership and leadership of all walks and aspects of American life so that our movement reflects the country we seek to serve. The core of civic renewal is grassroots, citizen-to-citizen changing of hearts. We believe that to successfully depolarize the country, each of us must practice depolarizing ourselves. It is this personal transformation that lies at the heart of our movement for civic renewal. It is embracing the better angels of our nature that enables us to treat our fellow Americans with the same charity we desire for ourselves, and that exhorts us not just that we should love our enemies, but constantly reminds us how to do it and provides a mirror when we fail. We, the people, depolarize ourselves, renew our trust in one another, and seek to spark civic renewal. In our country of government by and for the people, only changing ourselves from within can create lasting cultural change in institutions. Renewing ourselves is fundamental and the first step toward orienting our institutions to civic renewal. Many of us, together, committed to civic renewal, may shift the institutions to which we belong. We recognize that some institutions and cultures have greater influence in America than others, and we ask our members to think about ways they can renew their own institutions. Government, education, media, organizational networks, philanthropy, art, faith communities, business, labor, and grassroots. Each of these requires its own approach and attention to measurable outcomes. And in the coming period, we commit ourselves to better understanding the measurable indicators of community and institutional change that will inform and guide our progress and success. We conclude with a conviction. With civic renewal, America can be a land of civic virtue and robust citizenship, where freedom rings, where civic friendship is not destroyed by political disagreement, where we are dedicated to the proposition that all people are created equal. As we gather on the 160th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg, we aspire to fulfill President Lincoln's dream, that this government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
All right. Good. Luke. All right, thank you very much.
Sorry, one moment. I remembered the name of the person who I forgot earlier.
Okay.
So I would like to thank Steve Morrell in his absence also.
Very good, very good. Yes, awesome. All right, I have one small question of clarification, which is you said you used certain sentences that were not reflected the same way up here. I think it's correct that the ones that you read are the ones that are in the current draft. Is that right? That's right. Good, thank you. So we'll address that. Luke is now going to summarize for you. So this morning, for anyone who wasn't in a platform feedback breakout, we had 3 different rooms, our 3 largest rooms, because it was the thing that most people signed up for. Each room, there was a convening of people who offered input and feedback to the platform draft. And so what I'd like to ask Luke to do is summarize the changes that were made in response to that feedback.
Yeah, thanks, April. And this has been a really fascinating and iterative process. And everybody who's contributed to it, we have very much appreciated all the commentary and reflection you've brought to this. So in general, the document you see here, or I guess the document that Elizabeth just read for everybody, is very similar to the document pre-amended, because the vast majority of amendments suggested to us and that we've been working into this have been things on how best to frame the document as it exists. So there were some important changes made to the way that we talk about the old red-blue rule and the role of those who do not specifically identify either as red or as blue in this broader movement. And some of the language here reflects that. We also had several important wordage changes to discussing the role of other institutions and discussing the role of individuals present here, individuals present in the broader movement, and the organizations that they reflect and come from, and sometimes represent and sometimes do not specifically represent, but always are working as we are to hold themselves and hold our institutions to these rules. Another aspect we wound up talking about a lot is there was a series of dichotomies of different groups in America that we had listed, and we decided to strike that part out entirely because if we mention all those, we don't have all the possible dichotomies. And so given that we don't have 300 pages for this document, which we might next year, we did not feel we could adequately reflect America on that, and we appreciate everybody who brought up those concerns. There were a couple of other ones, but I think that hits the main ones. Can you remember anything that I'm forgetting off the top of my head here?
No, those are the big ones.
Yeah, great. So that was the process. We have taken in quite a bit of consideration, and we look forward to taking more consideration from everybody here, guided by our dear Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. All right. So keep that, please. And so we're now going to invite questions of clarification. So this is not the part where you ask to clarify how they could possibly think that this was a good idea, because that's an opinion. What we're doing right now is simply questions of clarification. So concepts, what do words mean, that kind of thing, because we're about to do the opinion part in just a minute when we get to the debate, the speeches. So first, David, there are mic runners. We'll do our best to get to you. But for now, project.
Is the thing that's on the screen now the current thing we're all looking at?
No. Sorry. Now it is. Now it is. It's been fixed. Great. Thank you. Not the one on the app. And there, I know that that's confusing, but the reason is that we're doing this in real time. And so this is the most accurate one, and the one that Elizabeth read mirrors what is up there right now. Other questions of clarification? Right here.
Is this a platform for Braver Angels or a platform for the movement?
This is a platform that represents what everyone in this body aspires to represent and create for America. So this is clearly a convention organized by Braver Angels, but we are the objective of it is to capture core principles to the movement. I think that wasn't clear enough for you. Go ahead.
It says Braver Angels platform. Should that be changed?
It should be changed.
Should be changed.
Thank you. V, call your office. You can sit down if you want to and write that down. Up to you. All right. Further questions of clarification. I see quite a few. So mic runners, I'm going to ask you to go to people who have hands up, and we'll just go around. So let's go to this gentleman here in the blue.
Would you clarify the meaning of disturbing trends in race, social, and class relations? Are there particular disturbing trends that you're referring to?
Go ahead, Platform Committee.
I think we're referring to them as something that we're all experiencing and concerned about, and didn't feel like we needed to name them specifically, but it's something that I think we feel in the ether, and we needed to put that into print.
All right. Further questions of clarification? Yep, Emily, go ahead.
Thank you. There was the session earlier where we brought forward some things, and some of them have been, let me say it this way. I see some of them have not been reflected, but they were just mentioned. Should we be bringing those things back up again if they didn't make it into the text for discussion, or is that now off the table?
Great question. So not off the table. Feel free to bring it up. What I will also say is that two of the key things that I know were sticking points for people were actually reflected, and they were reflected in what Elizabeth said, even though the text was slightly inaccurate up here. So we added in businesses and labor to the communities, to the list of institutions, and we struck the sentence that was like, Baptist churches and Jewish synagogues, therapists and truckers. So that whole sentence is out. But feel free to bring anything up that is still on your mind. All right. And since we're already back there, let's go to the gentleman. Yes, in front. Yep, right there.
Me?
Yes, you.
Madam Chair, I have a point of clarification.
Uh-huh.
Are we voting on the amendments?
We will not be voting on the amendments. That's a great question.
How are they amendments then? Who decides if they're amended?
What you're it's a suggestion. It's a friendly amendment that is suggested that the platform committee will take as under consideration. Yeah. Okay. Mic runners, if you could hold up your hands because I can't see you. There you are. Great.
Madam Chair, question of clarification. This is called the 2023 Braver Angels platform. My question is this a dynamic document? In other words, does it change from year to year in keeping with the temper of the times?
I think that what we're attempting to do today is crystallize where we are today. At next year's convention, we will do an additional one, like one for 24. And so we can see it as, I don't know that this literal document is going to be evolving after today, but we will, this is something that we try to crystallize at different moments in time. Okay. Mic runners, raise your hands. Emily, I see you. Oh, sure, please.
In this document are some elements.
Sorry. It's right here.
Okay. And in this document are some elements from earlier platforms, 2019 and 2018. So it's, in that sense, it's an ongoing development.
All right, in the back.
Yes. Madam Chair, I would ask for clarification on the use of the term polarization versus affective polarization.
Okay, sure, Luke. Mark, would you give Luke the mic?
So, long story short, this is all part of a cynical ploy by many of us to make the word polarization basically mean affective polarization. This is something that we have been working on for a long time, is that like when people talk about polarization, the issues are not the thing that matters. It's people's feelings towards each other, and we demonstrate that by meaning affective polarization when we say polarization in all of this. So yeah, so we imply affective polarization in all of this, but that's because we believe that the way that term is used in America should not be about how people think about the issues. It should always be how they think about each other. And we're really trying, as part of this movement for social change, to help that be the change in language that happens over here.
All right, here.
Thank you. Just for point of clarification, as people are saying things they'd like to change, it might be helpful, since we can't see the document on our phone, if they could say under renewing our institution, third line down.
Sure.
So we can all read along, please.
Yeah.
And I'm just an uneducated old white lady. I don't know what affected communication or whatever the heck, what did you just call it? Effective polarization.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that when people are reading this who aren't here, they're not going to know. Maybe we could call it something else.
All right, thank you.
It is now in the Hoover app. The new 6 draft is in the
so
Hoover app.
An update is that the this version is now in the Hoover app. Pull down to refresh your app. So this version is in the Hoover app. Just refresh your screen by pulling down. Further questions of clarification? It's in Documents in Hoover.
Also, I would just like to point something out, which is that the 2023 platform is not necessarily the permanent title of the document. That's just describing what it is. And there was a delegate who had a great suggestion for a title that the platform committee unanimously took under advisement, and so it is now, we decided to name it or title it formally, the First Principles of the Movement for Civic Renewal.
Right. So that's, of course, also something that can be debated here, but that's where we're at. All right, we're going to do a couple more questions of clarification. I see one here.
How does that differ from a mission statement?
How does a platform differ from a mission statement?
So, to my mind, a mission statement lays out not the principles that drive your mission, but what your goals of your organization are, what you're trying to do. Whereas the platform document lays out the underlying values and principles that drive our mission, as well as laying out the mission itself.
All right. I see.
April, could I just have one more thing to that? Because a lot of people represent different organizations that aren't Braver Angels. The reason why this isn't necessarily a mission statement but a platform is that it's a set of ideals that folks can aspire to if they'd like. So when we ascribe a mission statement, it might be very specific to one organization, but this is reflective and a potential aspiration for many others.
All right, great. And I see one more question of clarification up here. Can we get a mic up here? And then I saw one in the back, if we can get a mic to that person too.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Quanta.
Madam Chair, in the previous session, we have discussed about when we say today we, and they wanted to have more specific we, who was we, they were asked. And we said we, the citizens, come united together is what was mentioned. I don't know if that change is going to be made. Thank you.
So that's a suggestion, and so that's something that can come up in the discussion as something that we might change. It has not been changed at this time. We're going to do I think one more question of clarification. I know that we're not going to get to quite all of them, but we're going to assume that most of the most important issues have been raised. You look really urgent. What's up? No? Yeah.
April. I'm also happy to respond.
I just want to.
It's okay.
Madam Chair, I just want to clarify. I'm on the app, and the title of Platform Draft 6, which seems to be the most current one, is not the same title as that. So I want to
Correct.
make sure.
It's the same document. What you see reflected in Whova is just from the Google Doc download. So it doesn't actually have the formal title of the document on it. Correct. Yep.
All right, and we'll take one more question.
Again, this all happened on the fly in the last hour.
Yes. All right, so one more question of clarification in the back.
I'm not sure it's a question of clarification. But I have a question about renewing our institutions.
Well, I think that if you have, you can ask it and then I'll let you know.
So renewing our institutions, it says philanthropy, art, faith, communities, business, labor, and grassroots. Grassroots, to me, is a description of an institution. It's not an institution.
Very well. I think that that is, as you suspected, not a question of clarification, so we won't address it right now. However, I think Platform Committee, I would like us to just give them a little bit of support in the form of applause. Yes. Thank you, everybody. And you can go down. All right, so thus begins our section of on order.
Chair, may I suggest that we talked about what changes the Platform Committee did make, and the gentleman over here earlier suggested ones that weren't in there. It might help us move smoother if the committee might make any suggestions of why they decided not to make some of those, so we're not rehashing stuff during this next portion.
All right, Luke, come back. Incidentally, the Platform Committee, we can still debate things that they're contrary to what their judgment was. So, if you would speak to that.
Yeah, what do you want to know? Which?
What we're doing is there were a number of suggestions that were not taken, and if so, if there are any major ones that you chose not to take, please summarize those and give us a brief explanation.
Elizabeth, can you help me out here on some of this? Because there's a couple. I'm trying to think what some of the best ones for this might be.
Yeah, so where do you want to start?
We had, between the three groups, we had about 8 to 10 pages, and we summarized what we thought were the salient points for each group, tried to incorporate them into this document. Some suggestions we felt didn't fit into the overall kind of tenor of the document. And it wasn't really a rejection, it was just really trying to assimilate everything. And we think that we honored the intent and the tone of what we heard, taking that all together, and this is what we came up with.
I got another specific, yeah. So we had a lot of suggestions on why this whole red-blue dichotomy, why are independents only tokenly represented, why is this a thing that you're trying to force us into red-blue, doesn't that contribute to polarization, doesn't that not represent the full breadth of America? And that's a fair and valid concern. That's a valid concern that we have been working with and on for many years in Braver Angels, and everything that has showed up in this document and everything that's showed up in previous documents has very specifically tried to thread that needle as best as we can. The reason we don't go full-throatedly into, yes, red blue isn't real, red blue is everybody is an independent. The reason we don't go that far and did not go into that as far as we done here is because at the end of the day, the way we all experience conflict, even if we are very heterodox and nuanced and independent in our views, is on a red-blue spectrum that it's hard to define, but we can all feel it very harshly and closely in our lives and lived experiences. And just because you're on that spectrum does not say anything about your soul. It just says things about the particular social context and social construct of polarization today. And so when we say red and blue, we're talking about where we happen to be on those. We open a few things for reasons that we've discussed, but the reason we didn't go more full-throated about independence or purples is because red-blue kind of is at the nature of the things that we're trying to work on in Braver Angels with everybody's support, including those there and on the other sides.
Thank you. Elizabeth, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I would just add a little bit to that, which is to elaborate on something that some of you may not know, which is that even though, according to Gallup recently, 41% of Americans self-identify as independent, when Gallup followed up that question by asking them whether they leaned Republican or leaned Democratic, 88% of that 41% said that they either leaned Democratic or Republican. There are actually very few people who truly consider themselves independent in the United States who truly don't fit 50 plus 1%, which is what we're talking about when we say lean red or blue on one side or the other. That's not to say that those actual independents that do exist aren't important. You are. That's why you're represented here. That's why I think it was 14% we said are other here by their self-identity. Because we believe that you do have a voice that is important to share, and we believe that you're not accurately or well represented, even in a majority sense, by either side of the spectrum consistently. Also, generally speaking, something else that we heard is
we're going to move along soon, but you can finish.
Something else that we heard is frustration with the red-blue label, and I would say that that's more just inertia than anything else. It is a primary label. It works for what it is in its utilitarian sense. None of us were really opposed to finding a different label, but red and blue resonates, and there isn't really another label that resonates any better with a very wide group of swath of people. Everyone sort of has slightly different suggestions for what they would prefer, and so we've stuck with red-blue.
All right, thanks guys. Okay, so we're now moving to speech zone. So once again, raise your hands if you would like to speak. Anyone can raise their hand at any time to give a speech. The speeches are up to 3 minutes. I'll give you 1 tap when you have 30 seconds and 2 taps when you're done. And yeah, we'll get in as many as we can. So let's, and again, these can be about any reaction to the platform or anything you want to raise. You can disagree with the platform committee. It's a democracy, guys, so let's try it. All right, so for our first speech, let's start over here.
Madam Chair, I would like to suggest maybe it's a friendly amendment. The section is the last one about renewing our institutions. If you could bring up that wording maybe. Renewing our institutions. The last sentence talks about we commit ourselves to understanding the measurable indicators. And these indicators will guide our progress and success. I would also like to add something such as we commit ourselves to initiatives and experiments that will move these indicators in a positive direction. Because the way that's written, it just sounds like we're committing to understand the indicators and using the indicators. I would like a more explicit mention of we are going to do stuff too. As a red, that's a common issue.
All right, great. He's going to keep that mic because our secretary is going to valiantly try to capture every word of proposed amendments. So please say the specifics again.
Okay. We commit ourselves to measurable indicators that will change and inform, measurable indicators of community and blah, blah, change, and to experiments and initiatives that will move these indicators in a positive direction.
Got it, V? Yes, thank you. Were there 2 or was there?
No, that's it.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm looking for a next speech. Sorry, on order?
Thank you. In previous platform committees I've sat on, amendments require a second. Will that be required here?
No. Thank you. Because, I mean, we can, if it matters, we can second. Yes. I am the parliamentarian. Yes. Thank you. All right. Further speeches. Let's go right here.
Phil Gerson here. Madam Chair, I'd like to share two points that have opened up my vision of how we can form a movement. The first one relates to heart. And here's my wording. Understand the suffering and the potential solutions of all citizens, whether they are in the majority or the minority.
All right.
Okay. The second one has to do with institutions. And basically, it's rebuilding trust in our existing institutions and confidence in our future institutions.
All right. Thank you. V, did you get those? Good. All right. I saw another amendment over here. Is that what you said? Yeah. Okay.
One second.
I would like to back up one step and agree with the person who, in the sentence that begins, we recognize that some institutions and cultures have greater influence, blah, 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 as we editors say, blah, blah, blah. Faith communities, business, labor, and grassroots. That sticks out to me as not an institution. It looks like an error, and you've already said grassroots several times. I'm just speaking as an editor. Grassroots is not an institution, so I agree with that previous comment that was sort of glossed over. I think it should end with labor, and if you want to come up with another institution, that's fine with me.
Okay. Thank you. And just to clarify what an amendment is, if you raise your hand and say for a friendly amendment, I'm looking for specific wording changes. So I'm looking for, okay, all right. I think, so let me see if I understood you. Maybe I didn't understand correctly. I'm looking for something that sounds like I move that we change X to Y. Okay, sure, thanks.
I apologize for not being
No worries.
precise.
No worries.
Okay, I propose that we change the end of that sentence to faith communities.
I think you're suggesting.
Strike grassroots.
Okay, thanks. All right. Further speeches. Emily, the person that you've got over here.
Thank you, and just thank you again to the platform committee for taking in all of the different edits over the course of the hour. I did want to go back to the reference to polarization, and I understand the desire to make polarization synonymous with effective polarization and have that kind of collective language here. I think, though, that if we're going to think about the larger movement and attracting people that might identify themselves as activists and organizers, I mentioned this earlier, you have to polarize to mobilize. And so there's a difference between that kind of polarization and effective polarization that I understand. There's a collective understanding for that here. But if we want to bring some of those people in, if this is a public document, they won't be able to see themselves in this type of platform. And I don't think that that's the intention of this platform. So I would like to still offer adding that adjective to polarization.
Okay. Sounds good. By the way, I'm going to teach you just real quick a tradition from Braver Angels debates that I think some of you know. It's an alternative to applause. It's called banging. So it sounds like this. You just make noise on something. Yes, it's a way to show that you approve of things. And I would encourage you to use it throughout whenever you agree with something, just because it'll help us know how much support in the room there is for certain things. So further speeches, so many good options. I'm looking over here. Ross, right there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To go to the very beginning, the first clause. Seeing the United States torn apart by civic rancor. I just take issue with the seeing torn apart as if we're not being torn apart. So just in the presence, the present tense. And the seeing, I know for myself, I occasionally take part in. So it's witnessing, but also occasionally participating. I have no specific amendment for the changing of that word, but just to bring it up to every other delegate of what could be options, what could be alternatives aside from seeing. You know, if witnessing could be something, occasionally participating and trying not to.
Okay, thank you. Further speeches? On order? Go ahead.
Would it be possible for speakers when they're identifying language to at least identify the paragraph or the subhead
Okay.
they're talking about, because it's
Hard to follow, sure. So there's a suggestion that when people are suggesting specific wording changes, that they name the section of the document. It's just a request. On order?
So wonder, Madam Chair, if we can make sure that we scroll to the paragraph in question before the speaker talks about the change.
Okay, sure. Yeah, see? There's a lot of support in the room for that, it turns out. Thank you. Further speeches in the back.
Bruce Moreland from Northfield, Minnesota. I just want to make an observation. When Robert E. Lee was asked to lead the Union, he replied, "I shall never bear arms against the Union, but it may be necessary for me to carry a musket in the defense of my native state of Virginia." Run into a lot of people here who come from other organizations and have come here because they recognize that their organization needs help depolarizing. And it is extremely important that we not make Lee's mistake. We must remain true to the Braver Angels statements and positions and philosophy in spite of our attempt to serve our individual unions and states. Does that make sense? As a veteran, I cried all the way across the Gettysburg battlefield, and I'm not going to make it through this either.
Thank you. Further speeches? Friendly amendment here.
Under renewing our hearts.
Please scroll to renewing our hearts.
It just seems a bit of a run-on. I would say under it is embracing the better angels of our nature that enables us to treat our fellow Americans with the same charity we desire for ourselves, period. And begin civic renewal exhorts us to love our enemies constantly and provides a mirror when we fail.
All right. Noted. Cool. Further speeches? All right, a friendly amendment. Yes, Ross, you're getting your exercise.
Yeah. This relates to the section on institutions.
So let's go to the institution section.
It's
Good.
an alternative amendment to the one previously striking grassroots. I understand the purpose of the amendment to strike that, but I think grassroots could be represented by the terms either community organizations or neighborhood organizations at the discretion of the committee.
Cool. I think we're going to pause on, I'm going to call on some speeches that are actually speeches for a little bit, just because we've done a series of amendments in a row. So I see one back here. Stand as you're able. Yes.
Madam Chairman, I don't know if this is a speech or not, but I'd like to compliment all those people for their passion in preparing this document. I think it's quite remarkable. I would like to say something about the first part of this. I would like to suggest that we turn the first sentence into a more positive statement, perhaps saying, recognizing that the United States of America is one of the most fabulous, wonderful countries in the world that offers opportunities for freedom for individuals as delineated in the Declaration of Independence, and then you can go into your what's wrong. But I feel that there should be a positive first statement.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. Thank you. Further speeches? Let's go over here.
Hi, Kat Anderson, Washington State. I just want to say on the matter of the effective polarization, I'm a blue collar, not a college degree. I'd like to be cautious about using highfalutin terms that a lot of your folks out there are not going to understand. So I can understand polarization. I just got introduced to effective polarization yesterday. I look forward to learning more about that. But please remember, I think we're on the verge of blowing this thing up to infinity. And we're going to be talking to a lot of people, and we want to reach as many as possible and not segregate them by the language we use.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Further speeches, and just somebody asked me to define speech. Thank you for that as a suggestion. So there are many things we can talk about here. Some of them are fundamental and some of them are specific words. I just want to encourage some of both kinds of that discussion. So here.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm not sure if this is a request for a clarification or a friendly amendment because it was so long ago. But if you could flip to the section about institutions and go to the last sentence, please. Thank you. And the speaker suggested a change. In the coming period, we commit ourselves to better understanding the measurable indicators of community institutional change that will inform and guide our progress and success, and inserted the word positive results. My question, if this is what I understand, what does that mean, positive? That's a pretty ambiguous word. So,
okay.
Clarification, I guess.
Thank you. We're not doing questions right now, but I hear you that is a question for the body.
Then let me suggest a friendly amendment to remove the word positive.
Okay.
Thank
you. Further speeches over here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Heather. I'm the blue co-coordinator here for the state. I'm sitting next to my red co-chair, who I finally met for the first time in person. So thank you, Lindy, for being my partner the last 2 years. This whole thing is really inspiring. And one thing I wanted to caution us about is the word citizen, and using that in the document in any way. My friend Diksha Watwani came to this country 20 years ago. She had already earned a degree in India before she came here. She grew up in Mumbai. She, in part, came to this country because her father would have married her off if she hadn't. And she earned a degree at the School of Visual Arts in New York with my brother. And she came home to my house every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every Easter, because she couldn't go back to India. And so she stayed with my family. We refer to her as my Indian sister. She tried for 20 years to get her citizenship. It took her 20 years. She was taken advantage of by any number of immigration lawyers in New York. She spent tens of thousands of dollars to try to become an official citizen of this country. And she was here before even my nephew was born. When Drew graduated from college this spring, Demi had just received her citizenship. And we had a cake for her. I gave her a scarf with the Constitution on it. And she calls me and texts me every July 4th and says, "Happy America Day. This is the best country in the world." So I really just want to caution us that there are people here in this country who are not citizens, who are nonetheless part of our civic body.
Thank you. Thank you. Further speeches? Let's come up here. Long dark hair. Yes, thank you, Manu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I first just wanted to say overall, I think it's great. So thank you so much to the committee. I had a comment about the section that says under Reflecting America, where it talks about red, blue. Let's see where. Yeah. So it says, we gather as delegates from across America equal numbers of reds and blues and many independents. I would suggest what I hope is a short change. I think I love that we're including independents, but I think that also doesn't capture everyone because there are people that affiliate with a party such as the Forward Party that doesn't necessarily consider it a red or a blue party because they're trying actively to draw people from both sides. There may be other parties like the Green Party or I don't know, Libertarian Party that might not self-identify as red or blue, but they're also not independent. So I would just suggest maybe to change that to independents and others or independents/others. Finally, as maybe a friendly amendment, I agree with what's been said about effective polarization can be confusing and sort of segregating to people that don't. I didn't know what that was at first. I also think polarization, I agree with the comment that polarization is not always a bad thing. It's kind of what we do with it. So I would just suggest maybe change polarization to either toxic polarization or hostile polarization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go over here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kyle Murphy from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Up higher on this page, please, toward the end of the introduction, there's a space where it talks about distrust. Right in here, at the bottom of the full paragraph here, it says, distrust of one another on the basis of politics reaches all-time highs. And I think that's a little, almost ridiculous in some ways when we are on the site of one of the battles of the Civil War, where hundreds of thousands of Americans lost their lives due to disagreements based on politics. So I would suggest potentially toning that language down in order to make it more accurate to the situation we're facing today.
Okay, thank you. Good, very good. Further speeches. Some of you mic runners come down to the front because there are a few folks down here. Let's go here. Yes, Ross, run.
Thank you. A few random thoughts. In the very beginning, where it says again, well, I guess my overall comment is that language that feels really strong turns me off. It feels like I'm opening up a mailing from some nonprofit that's trying to convince me one way or the other. So words like torn apart by civic rancor kind of feels really strong to me. I might suggest seeing the divisiveness in the United States. Today we come together to call for and lead a movement. So just some gentler language works better for me. In that same vein, I respond to the word crisis. Again, it makes me feel like one of those bad nonprofit letters that I open up. So our movement was born in response to polarization, a growing threat to democracy. I don't think we need to say a crisis that destroys trust, degrades public discussions, et cetera, because in the very next statement, we say all those things. We say polarization tears at our social fabric as trust in our institutions reach historic lows. And it's repetitive to me. So I would like to just say our movement was born in response to polarization, a growing threat to democracy, and then get rid of that, the rest of the crisis part.
Okay. You have 30 seconds, yep.
Okay. It was brought up in our group and not reflected in here, the issue of calling the United States just America. I think reflecting the United States of America and just saying we believe that to change the United States, we must reflect its people, et cetera, et cetera. That is reflecting America. Instead, it's just saying reflecting the United States of America. We believe that to change the United States, we must reflect its people. We believe that to change the United States, we must reflect its people, rather than to change America. Okay. And it was also brought up that we strive to have equal numbers of reds and blues in all our events, but that's not reality. I was just wondering, we gather as delegates from across America, striving for equal numbers of reds and blues, including independents and politically balanced networks of more than 200 organizations.
All right, thank you. So I just want to remind the body of two things. So lots of people still want to speak. This is great. I think that we're doing a lot with specific words. Of course, principles are reflected in words, but let's talk about the principles too. just make sure that's in there. And also, it is totally permitted to speak in disagreement with something that's been said before, or to comment on suggestions that have been made. Further speeches. Let's go over here.
I'm a blue and a moderator for Braver Angels. I remember in a workshop, a rural farmer from South Dakota, I'm from Minnesota, saying that he was so afraid of using correct language that he just wants to stay home. He's afraid he's going to use the wrong pronoun. He's afraid he's going to use the wrong name for a race. We are all here to bridge the divide and unify the country. And I don't want to, and I sat through one of the platform breakouts earlier and have a deep, deep appreciation for the impact of language and what words mean to different people. I learned significant things about how other people see things through language that I use that's different. I just hope that when we vote on this platform later today, that even though we might disagree with what landed here, that we appreciate the process that we have been through to get here, and that while our individual things might not be reflected, that we can support the body and principle of what we're doing.
All right, further speeches. Let's go there. This green.
Thank you very much. We've had 3 days of civic education, and I would suggest somewhere, perhaps under what civic renewal is, we talk about civic education. By that, I really mean kind of the unchangeable elements of the American political structure: federalism, separation of powers, localism, voluntary associations. I think we are an unusual nation in comparative government terms, and to renew the civic structure successfully, we really have to commit ourselves to learning more about those structures. So I guess I would like somewhere included, a renewal of the mind as well as a renewal of the heart and the institution, but some specific call out to educate ourselves about the systems and processes of government and policy making.
All right, thank you. So let's come up here in the cool shirt. Yes, you.
Sorry. Madam Chairwoman, I'm Peter Scarry from Massachusetts. I wanted to reflect for a moment, if I might, and I think this is in the spirit of several cautions that have been issued or cited, about the word polarization. It seems to me there's an unfortunate sort of development in this term in American politics. Since the 1990s, for sure, the term polarization has come to characterize what's happened to our politics in general in America. But it's also true that the word polarization is a term of art largely or basically or originally from Alinsky community organizing. And I'm not sure everyone here is aware of that's origin, but I think people who are involved in organizing have come to use the word polarize in the sense you got to draw lines, you got to point to the guy who's your enemy or your opponent and make it clear who's us and who's them. I don't disagree with that as a strategy, but it seems to me we have to be careful about elaborating on the term polarization to suit the tastes of people who are part of Braver Angels that might get us into being perceived as part of a somewhat controversial movement of community organizers in America. So the word polarization in its current terminology in terms of describing American politics, I think is accepted, widely embraced, not questioned. If we start getting into fine-tuning specific kinds of polarization, I think that opens us up to charges that, we see Alinsky organizing behind this. And that can be very divisive. I don't say that as critical of Alinsky organizing. I'm rather sympathetic to it. But it is a red herring for lots of Americans. So.
Okay, thank you. So further speeches, and I should say we have about 5 minutes, 6 minutes left, and so friendly amendments totally allowed, and matters of principle totally allowed. I'm going to encourage you. You guys have been very brief, so that's fine, and we'll get as many people in as possible. So I see one way in the back.
Hello, Madam Chairwoman. I have a comment to make about the principles themselves, and specifically the principle of nonviolence. We've heard a lot over the last few days about the inspiration of Martin Luther King. We had this beautiful skit about the barber shop and Bill asking, well, you know, if we want a civil rights style movement, we need this, that, and the other thing. And do we have those? And the reality is, according to the research, Braver Angels does have a lot of the elements of a potential social movement of that type. The research shows, for example, that you need diverse participation, that you need to be ensconced in various institutions. And I see the work of Braver Angels with that potential. The research also shows that for a social movement to be successful, it must maintain nonviolent discipline. And the social movements that we've seen in recent years, even the big ones that eventually fell short because they were unable to maintain nonviolent discipline. And I think one of the beautiful things about Braver Angels is that not only is there talk of being in the spirit of Martin Luther King and nonviolence, but there's also a very specific methodology that everybody's trained in, about how to de-escalate conflict. And so I would just propose, it's more than just a question of adding the word nonviolence, that if we're really truly talking about a movement that could potentially evolve into something that could end up on the streets in the case of, who knows what calamity, that we really put forward the principle of nonviolence and strive to maintain nonviolent discipline.
All right, very good, very good. Further speeches. Let's go right here. Luke, would you bring yes, Tracy. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. My name is Tracy Hollister. I am now a red-leaning North Carolinian, formerly lifelong blue-leaning person. And the reason I lean red now is because of censorship. And as an organization which is either 14 or 20% overall red, we need to look out for and be almost affirmative action for reds. As a result, I have a friendly amendment, and I've written an entire new paragraph. Even though I think that this is already a little bit long, I'm adding something. And that is renewing our First Amendment. We realize that we cannot have civic renewal if some do not have the full protection and safety of freedom of speech. We are called to listen to all voices and recognize that freedom of speech is fundamental not only to dialogue movements, but to democracy itself. We recognize that some US government agencies have been involved in censoring the social media speech of our fellow Americans under the guise of protecting us from misinformation in recent years, particularly red-leaning Americans. We therefore resolve to expose, report, and speak out against government censorship, especially if it's those with whom we disagree.
All right. And yes, Fee, just go over to her. That makes a lot more sense. Thank you. Okay, so we have time for one or maybe two more speeches. Let's go over here. Yes, Russ, you can give a speech.
Can I make a speech? A very quick one?
Yes.
we have to speak strongly. Like I don't think there's any other way. I understand that news media and organizations and corrupt politicians have cried wolf about the demon on the other side of the political aisle for years, and that's why we're here. They've cried wolf over and over and over again, but the wolf's in the pasture. The wolf is here now. And for us to say, you cried wolf, so I'm not going to talk about the wolf, doesn't make any sense to me. I think we have to not mince our words, to speak strongly, because just because they lied and spoke strongly does not mean that we should not tell the truth and speak strongly.
Thank you. All right. Further speeches? Yes, you can go there.
I'm Abigail Adams from Connecticut, and just want to say thanks to Ross. I wanted to hold up in the midst of the gravity, the discipline, and the vulnerability that I've witnessed at this, my first Braver Angel convention. I want to hold up alongside with it the power of joy and fun and celebration. I thank everyone for it, and maybe not in this particular document, but I wish it were reflected that this is a party everyone wants to be at.
All right. Sounds good to me. All right. We're going to do a final speech, and I think we'll do Amy there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to propose that we consider including the principles that will guide this civic renewal that Braver Angels, I think, models and exemplifies so well, and that I have seen throughout this convention. Whether it's in the opening section or the Renewing Our Hearts section, I don't know. But just to include that we will model patience, humility, curiosity, openness, and respect for the inherent dignity of all of our human brethren or siblings.
All right. That having been very short, we will actually do a different final speech, which is in the back. Emily.
A request for amendment, Madam Chair, that all speakers in the second line be changed to all people, as not all Americans will be conveying their opinions in spoken language.
All right. Yes. Yes, all speakers changed to all people. All right, thank you, everyone. We're going to call a recess on this discussion, and I know that there are more folks who wanted to speak, and I really appreciate all the engagement here. We're going to, so what will happen now with this document is that the platform committee, you all are going to go to breakouts about what's next. And while you do that, the platform committee, which V has, in fact, they may be walking out now so that they can get started. They're going to valiantly try to include and reflect as much of this as makes sense in their judgment. And so when we get to the final plenary later today, we will vote on this up or down. But as we have one more section of this plenary, so don't get up yet. But I just want to close this section with, can we give ourselves a round of applause? That was like a lot of great input. Yes, very good, very good. All right, so we're now gonna stand up and do a stretch break, and then we're gonna have one final presentation. So everybody just stand up real quick as you're able. Hands over your head. Move around a little bit. Okay, good. All right. Now we're gonna sit back down. I know this is a long one, but there's something really exciting coming up next, which is the question, we're gonna address how we answer what is next. And so I'd like to invite April Chatham-Carpenter and Ian Smith, the two people who are leading the Rise for America campaign, to the stage to talk about that.
How is everybody today?
Hello.
Ian and I just got back from a tour of Gettysburg, and what a moving experience that was, getting to be there. So, Ian, I thought I would start out with a question. Why aren't you wearing the right T-shirt?
What do you mean? What?
This
I'm wearing a Brave
t-shirt.
Angels t-shirt. Isn't that what we're here for?
I mean, how many of you have the T-shirt that's the right T-shirt on? Rise for America T-shirt.
Wait, what is Rise for America? Why do they have these free t-shirts in the bookstore? When who knows what Rise for America is?
Who knows what Rise for America is? Is it just the name of our convention? Who thinks it's just the name of our convention? I mean,
Who
it
thinks
does
it's
have
our
Gettys-
slogan for the convention?
Okay.
All right.
Who thinks it might mean something more than that?
Oh.
You.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay. Well, closer? Like
Ooh.
this?
No, April, not like that.
That was for you. But thank you. All right. So the question is, we are getting ready after a long convention and a wonderful convention to do something. I know that when I leave something that has been so inspiring like this, that I want to take action. And so we have some opportunities for you to take action after the convention. And I'm going to ask, I know I said I needed a clicker, but I'm just asked Josh to forward through some of these slides for me, whoever's back there. Rise for America is actually, next slide, our action campaign. And yes, National Campaign for Civic Renewal. This is not just about a platform that we sit on like a strategic plan at my university. That doesn't make any difference. Oh, hope no of my university people are here. But it is actually something that will lead us to do something. So we have been talking about this whole time, the arc of the convention. Why are we here? Can we make a difference? Have people been making a difference? We have been talking about making a difference. So when we think about making a difference, we really want to think about the why and the who and the how of doing that. So if you go to the next slide. So why is this important? I could probably ask for speeches here from your experience about why this is important. Polarization is a problem. We all agree with that? However we define it, it's a problem. All right. Who's going to go back one? Who's going to be involved with this? We want all of you, but not just all of you. We want all Braver Angels subscribers and members to be involved, but not just them. We want people who believe in making a difference and change being needed in this United States of America to be involved. We want your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, your family members, your church and synagogue members, your book club members to be involved.
Your coworkers.
Your coworkers, everyone in your circle of influence. So we have created, a group of us have created red and blue. You notice, Ian, April, we are not the only ones, but we have created, along with some other folks, 5 simple actions that you can choose from in the next 6 months. But we hope you will start today in choosing those actions. So we're going to go over those 5 actions really quickly. If you'll put them up on the screen. These are the 5 actions. We're going to go through them one by one, and then you're going to be going into a breakout room that is connected to your geographical area. So maybe you can connect with some people that are from your area to do some of these actions. But we are going to be going through each of these 5 actions, and I want you to be thinking about which one of these kind of speaks to me. Which one of these can I potentially do? So Ian and I are going to go through them, and I think you're doing the first one, aren't you?
I'll do one.
Yeah, so tell us about number 1.
All right, first of all, I just want to say all of these actions were crafted in such a way to include other people. It's not just you signing up for a workshop, it's you and others signing up for a workshop, for example. Sorry to step on your toes.
Oh, no, you're great.
All right, the first one, this is simple. Host a party to watch the Braver Angels documentary. You know that old documentary? It's on YouTube, was put up there in 2020. It's 50 minutes long. Academic research has shown that just watching that documentary actually has a measurable effect on polarized attitudes. So, invite people over, show the documentary. We have a discussion guide for afterward to digest the documentary written by Bill, and then report. After every action, please let us know you did this, because we want to have a data-based movement as well, where we can keep track of how we're growing, how we're doing. So yeah, let's move on to number
And by
two.
the way, the infrastructure that is behind all of these, the emails that you're going to get when you sign up to remind you and explain all of these, is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm not an IT person, so that's
It's also
probably
absolutely tedious.
yeah,
but-
yeah. All right, so number 2, how many of you know what a DW workshop is or what that stands for? Somebody shout it out. Mary TV, what's it stand for? Depolarizing within. Another proven research-based workshop that shows that if people go through it, they actually become less polarized. It's a 3-hour workshop, so it's kind of a commitment of time. And you notice that it says attend and amplify. And by the way, did anybody attend the 1.5-hour version of that workshop while you've been at the convention? Okay, that was kind of a little small version of that, because we had to really cut it short. But that workshop probably changed my life more than any of the other workshops that I've done, because I didn't realize how biased I was. I did not realize that I needed to open my hands to others. And that workshop taught me that. And I thought I was pretty open. Anyway.
Oh, sorry, number 3.
Go away, hang on. Go back to number 3.
Sorry, number 2.
There's another word there, amplify. You chose that word, actually.
Did I?
You did.
Well, yes, amplify.
Amplify sounds like I'm speaking into the mic and I'm really amplifying.
No, we don't need more of that. No, thank you.
Okay. Amplify means I'm inviting others to come with me. So you are not going by yourself. And you may say, well, who's going to put these workshops on? Mary Beth Stibbins and organizer team have 10 national Depolarizing Within workshops. Now, they're hosted over Zoom, scheduled for every weekend in September and October except for Labor Day. They want to fill them up. They have the capacity of 200 per workshop. And your local alliances or groups might want to put one on in person. So there are many opportunities to do that step, to invite other people to come with you. Step number 3.
Step number 3, ambassadors, something near dear to my heart. So some of you out there are Braver Network partners. So if you want to bring Braver Angels to your organization, to your group, to your club, to your business, then submit a request. We have an entire volunteer group out there called the Ambassadors, that what we do is we perform outreach for Braver Angels. So we have an introductory presentation that we can give, and it also includes a little kind of mini slice of the Depolarizing Within workshop, so that the participants can get a feeling for what a Braver Angels workshop includes. So submit the request, work with the ambassador. Select the right dates, invite people from your group, from your community to come to this event, and then hold the event, and then again, let us know. Please.
Let us know is something that will be always. There's a completion
Always
form
good.
after you finish
Always
all of these.
good.
And they can come to their group. You can invite the ambassador to your already existing group, like
Oh yeah.
church or synagogue or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ambassadors will come to you or do it over Zoom. We've got ambassadors all over the nation, but if they can't travel, then we've made it work for the past few years.
All right, step number 4. How many of you have participated in a debate since you have been at the convention? How many of you, it was your very first debate that you ever did? Okay. All right. Well, we need more debate chairs. You all who went to the convention know what a debate chair does. Right now, they have a limited capacity to offer debates in local communities and on college campuses. Bridge USA kind of does the college campus side of things with
And high
Braver
schools.
Angels, and then we have Braver Angels debates. We need more debate chairs actually trained. But we don't want you just to stop at the debate chair training, because remember, all of these action steps are supposed to be done with other people. So you would then work with the Braver Angels debate team or Bridge USA to actually say, hey, pick me. I would love to be a part of a debate that you organize. And they can help you because they will have now trained debate chairs. All right, that's number 4. What's number 5?
Number 5, create your own. All right, let's say you don't like any of these things. Don't want 1 through 4. You don't want to do that for one reason or another. All right, let us know what you want to do. You could, attend a Braver Angels event with other people. You could, do a one-on-one conversation. You could do living room conversations. Who says it has to be Braver Angels? You could do dinner and a fight. I know Ted's here somewhere. Let's try. Hi, Ted. Yeah.
There's a book of Ted's back in the bookstore.
Oh yeah. You could write an op-ed to your local paper, or do something else entirely. Let us know what it is, and maybe this becomes another activity that we recommend to others. So do something that involves other people, and then let us know.
All right, we could just leave it here, but you know what? The mic drop doesn't start here. It starts in what you're getting ready to go do.
Yes.
You're going to be going into breakout rooms where there are facilitators that will answer questions about these 5 potential action steps and give you a handout with a QR code and a website, if you'd rather go to a website directly, that you will actually be able to sign up today for one of those actions. And then we will send you some information on how to get started with each one of those. All right,